Phase Zero, Season 4, Episode 19. I'm your host today, Jenna Anderson. BD is currently on Fury Road doing some interviews for a little movie coming up, so he will not be joining us today. But today we have the Fantastic Three. We have Jamie Jirak.
Witness me!
This is just going to be stealth to become like a Mad Max show, even though none of us have seen Furiosa yet. And we also have Aaron Perrine.
One day we all will see Furiosa, but that day is not today, unfortunately. Good morning, everybody.
But today is the day to talk about a lot of things related to Marvel. We have a lot of quotes about the future plans for phases 5 and 6. We have X-Men 97 discussion, which will be in the third section of our show as per usual. So if you haven't seen it yet, you will know when to dip out to avoid spoilers. We have a new What If thing that just dropped within the past hour. So we'll be talking about that. And Deadpool, Captain America, some casting news. So big show today. But first, thank you everybody so much for listening to our Spotlight episodes that have dropped in the past week. BD talked to Ross Marquand, the voice of Professor X on X-Men 97, and I spoke to Matthew Watterson, the voice of Magneto on X-Men 97, and both of those turned out great. Thank you guys so much for listening. But yeah, without further ado, we have some quotes, and who better to read quotes than Jamie Jirak?
Here we go. Ooh, there's a lot of changes with Marvel Studios, according to Bob Iger on an earnings call this week. Everybody's talking about it, so quote time, let's go. He said, "We're slowly going to decrease volume and go to probably about 2 TV series a year instead of what had become 4, and reduce our film output in maybe 4 a year to 2, or maximum of 3." He said, yeah. So, and they said, and we're working hard on what that path is. Marvel has a couple good films. Marvel has had a couple good films in 2025, and then we're heading to more Avengers, which we're extremely excited about. Overall, I feel great about the slate. It's something that I've committed to spending more and more time on. The team is one that I have had tremendous confidence in, and the IP that we're mining, including all the sequels that we're doing, is second to none. I mean, everyone's like, "Ooh, big interesting news," but I feel like this is like we kind of knew this already, right? I feel, I even feel like the 3 movies a year is still like, okay, that's still a lot. I feel like this isn't that big of a deal. What do you guys think?
I think it both is and isn't a big deal. I think like actually hearing confirmation that they are slowing down is good, given all of the times we've talked about those possibilities and those reports and stuff on this show. I do think it's interesting having him say this and then in the same breath mention that there are 2 Avengers movies on the horizon, because at the same time, I want them to slow down, but I also want them to adequately build up to these 2 Avengers movies. And it feels like there are so many projects we would want to see, especially before like a Secret Wars happens. So it's like, are we going to even see those, or is Secret Wars going to come out 3-4 years from now and we'll only have a handful of projects in between? So I don't know.
As I've said, this is rubber hits the road moment. We're going to figure out what everybody's really about. I've thought about writing this for the site and wanted to hold back until, I can say it on here, but the 2 goals do not align. They just don't. There's no way you can get around it. You can't both have 2 movies and 2 shows a year and adequately build towards Secret Wars unless every movie is an Avengers movie, which, I mean, you could do that. I feel like poor Sean Levy would have had to do it himself this year for it to work, but, it is what it is. Or you can have the story go the way it's supposed to go. And who knows? Sometimes pivots work. Lots of wrestling fans watch this show because me and BD are nerds. But I can't imagine that you're going to get the kind of Secret Wars you all imagine you're going to get with reduced output. It's just not going to happen. It'll still feel good, because if X-Men 97 and Deadpool and Wolverine had illustrated anything, it's that if they show up in the costumes that people want them to show up in, you will love whatever. It does not matter what it is, really, at all. So, the Bob man doing stuff to keep them activist investors off his back, and God bless you, because those people suck.
I will say, to your point, and like I keep thinking about this with Secret Wars and with stuff like Crisis on Infinite Earths, of like those events existed at a time when comics were being published every single week, basically. Like the story that they were addressing and that they were building towards happened every single week over and over again, and we got to know all of these characters for years up until we got to this point. And it's like, we're not having that. As we've said ad nauseum on the show, there are so many characters we've seen in phase 4 and phase 3 that like we haven't seen since, and we kind of like, it kind of sucks. So it's very interesting, to your point, that like the reduced output and Secret Wars do not line up at all.
Do we think though that since there's supposed to be an Avengers movie before that, that maybe somehow that's the plan to use that movie to springboard into Secret Wars? Or do we still think that's not enough? Or is that not happening anymore? Did I miss something?
I think that that's gonna happen, but, like, that even in and of itself is a huge undertaking, like, just considering the amount of plot points and character cameos and all of these things that, like, we've never followed up on since the start of Phase 4. That movie would just have to be, like, a bunch of little vignettes almost answering all of those questions and then just moving forward, but yeah.
I mean, one thing you can't do, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You've already shown big logos on the screen with numbers under it. Like, it's over. Like, people expect it to come out pretty soon. You've showed it. Like, it happened. You think they're going to forget? You think they're going to be nice about it? You think, will the internet relent? Are you kidding? 2024? Never. Never. So, I don't know.
Well, Louis Esposito did shed more light on the topic while talking to Empire Magazine, so I will read those quotes now. He said it's been a rough time. He said if we just stayed on top, that would have been the worst thing that could have happened to us. We took a little hit. We're coming back strong. He said maybe when you do too much, you dilute yourself just a little bit. We're not going to do that anymore. We learned our lesson. Maybe 2 or 3 films a year or 1 or 2 shows as opposed to doing 4 films and 4 shows. And then Feige chimed in and said, it's nice to be able to rally behind one feature project this year. I'm much more comfortable being the underdog. I prefer being able to surprise and exceed expectations. So it does seem like the last year, which has not been ideal, has set us up well for that. And then Sean Levy said, you'd have to live under a rock not to know that the last few Marvel movies have failed to ignite the world in the way that so many did. We do come along at an interesting time, and there are decidedly something different, whether it's of messianic proportions. Thank you. Time will tell. You know, I don't read these ahead of time, so sometimes a big word comes and I go, "Uh-oh, didn't prepare." You know, I think it's interesting. I still think it's using the word underdog is a interesting choice because I don't think they're quite there, and I think that they're talking about these failings, and I think a lot of it has to do more with box office than it does with quality. There are people who don't haven't liked certain things, but I really stand by that of all the recent stuff, there's only one that's, or maybe 2 if we're talking TV, that's particularly bad. And I do feel like it's not their fault. We've talked about this before. It's like what happened with westerns back at, like, once the 60s hit, it was like they weren't releasing 50 westerns a year. Like, it's just that's how cinema works. We flow in and we come and in and out, and we'll see. But I think it's interesting, and at least they're all aware of it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think, like, the self-awareness is kind of shocking. I know a lot of people glommed onto Sean Levy's quote about just openly admitting that a lot of the movies have not been the cultural monoliths that they would have been a couple years ago. I agree with your point about the underdog thing because I feel like they might be the underdog in, like, the film industry that is now evolving and changing and has a slightly different appetite than it did when, like, Endgame came out, but they are still definitely, like, the top dog in the superhero movie space. Like, we've talked about Sony ad nauseum on the show. DC, as much as I'm absolutely excited for it, is still like in its early stages of starting to get the ground running. I know I want to talk about the Superman suit, but we are not doing that on the show. But yeah, so it's like they still have this, like, cultural capital. It's just not, as we've said, the monoculture that they used to have.
I can't imagine the thrill that he said that out loud. Even though they're really, really happy with the stuff. This is the sort of thing that when you want to direct an Avengers Secret Wars, maybe you should not say out loud, even if you believe it yourself. I don't think. But see, also Sean Levy also cannot help himself. He's got that weird. Everybody in the Ryan Reynolds, like, surrounded universe has that weird smirking quality to them. That's like, you shouldn't put a microphone in front of this person at all times. You don't know what's exactly is going to happen. Me and BD believe that some of this stuff is a work in some ways. And for those listening home who might not know what that means, is that they're obviously reading the comments. They're scrolling like Aubrey Graham in a fury to get all of the messaging under control. And that is why you get things like, we've overextended ourselves, whatever. I'm like, you could read this from any weird blue check Twitter account that has a bunch of followers that are of dubious size and reality. Like, okay, all right. And also, an underdog story with a movie that is a sequel to 2 movies that are very well regarded, and bringing back Hugh Jackman, hilarious fan favorite, hysterically popular, no matter the context, no matter if the movies are good or bad. Go watch Phase Zero's Road to Deadpool and Wolverine for more information on the good and the bad movies involving Hugh Jackman. It's very funny. It all feels a lot like posturing. It is in the same vein of the Sean Levy. You do not have to do homework. Just ignore those 26 dead bodies in the corner. You know, they don't have anything to do with anything. So yeah, I mean, also we're gonna. I just, one of the things I love about, and also like love, I mean that derogatory, about this industry and covering these topics is that you get a whole year of, yo, superhero fatigue is real, superhero fatigue is real. And then what happens if Deadpool and Wolverine is the biggest movie this year, which is absolutely on the table. I think it's actually kind of likely now. It's going to take Dune another month and a half to get to $800 million. So, and there ain't no, Christopher Nolan's not coming out of the, you know, up the well to save us this time, unfortunately. So we'll have to see. I just think it's really funny. Like, a lot of this stuff feels like they just out here in the background trying to get their ducks in a row before we get to San Diego, and then no one will care.
I totally agree. I also think it's like this article and these quotes are helping them kind of get back into the larger cultural conversation and kind of like acknowledge certain things in the lead up to Deadpool. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think
everybody owes Greta Gerwig a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because she's like, oh, right, you have to spend money on these movies so people know they exist, so people will go see them. And the Deadpool campaign is proving both paying money and having Hugh Jackman on collaborative cups, which is weird 90s of it all, is how you get people to care about a movie.
Yeah. Well, it'll be really interesting to kind of see what the future holds. And then kind of on the topic of MCU fatigue and certain people's prayers getting answered, Giancarlo Esposito revealed during a recent panel appearance that he has joined a Marvel project in a mystery role. The internet kind of lost its mind about this because they have always fan cast him for things, and they have for several years now. He was at CCXP Mexico, and he revealed that he is appearing in a Marvel project that will be released sooner rather than later, and that it is better than you can imagine. And he also kind of said that the character in question is not one that fans have campaigned for him to play in the past. So he's most likely not Professor X. He's most likely not Galactus or Doctor Doom. I have a theory about who he could be playing, but I want to hear y'all's reaction first.
I'm glad it's not Professor X, because after that last thing he said about it, I was like, I don't know. But I love him, and I'm really hyped to see him in this universe. I'm hoping that it's not a villain. Even though he's so good at it, the man knows how to be a villain. Gus Fring is one of my favorite villains of all time, and I've got a Moff Gideon toy right over here. But like, it would be cool to see him just be a sweet man, because he seems like a sweet man in real life. And let's see something different. But also, if he is a villain, I'm not gonna be mad about it because he's really good at it. So I don't know, who cares? It's great.
If that man doesn't play a bad guy, if he doesn't play a bad guy, the whole internet. There was like a joking tweet, like probably like 2-3 months ago, where it's like, let's just have Bob Odenkirk and him be like Hanks, and that's how you solve it. Just have them bickering with each other forever for the next 3 years. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, why not? I don't know if he's not Galactus though. I don't know if that's not true. There are ways that could be true, but I don't know. I have no clue. You have to just sit here and wait. As long as Jamie said, he's not Professor X after what God said, I think we could all agree. As long as that doesn't happen, we're good. We're Gucci.
I have 2 theories that I'm just going to throw out here. The first one is, and because he would not be the first actor to do this, it would be really funny if he actually meant like a Sony project and accidentally made it sound like it was a Marvel Studios project.
Not again, not the full Tyrese.
I just have to throw that out there because, you know, history has proven that can happen. My other theory, and I feel like this is a lot more likely because this was also, people had kind of fan cast him for this role when concept art came out at San Diego a couple of years ago. I would not be surprised if he is Norman Osborn in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Which again is him playing a villain, but I feel like having him be in an animated like voiceover kind of context would not really surprise me. I think it would be kind of on par with getting Theo James for X-Men 97. And I feel like that would be a way to kind of like get him to play a character that everybody already likes, but he's like doing a fresh take on it.
Doesn't he voice Lex?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that it's not unprecedented. Like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I'm seeing in the comments that he hinted that it could be an original character. Is this true?
Which, like, I don't know what he necessarily means by that. Like, I don't know if he means just like an original take on a character or like a solely
Hmm.
original character. Like, I'm kind of
Okay.
leaving the door open for either because I do think like there could be something to the Norman Osborn of it all.
Somebody send me a letterboxed list of Giancarlo Esposito in bad guys in suits. I'm sure there's a long list of him as
Yes.
bad men in
There-
suits.
There's no Breaking Bad on Letterboxd, no TV. Sorry, Aaron, it wouldn't work.
No.
No. There's
Yet.
other stuff where he's just a bad guy in a suit too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
You could make like a whole box set and it would take up like an entire shelf at this point.
I've got a cardboard
Oh,
box
that's a good
full of
idea.
Giancarlo Esposito having monologues in dark colored suits. This is very weird.
It's like the Pedro Pascal and a like small
Yeah.
child that he's like adopted
the
cinematic
same
universe.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's just very silly. Okay, so speaking of fun guys, cynical guys, Paul Walter Hauser has joined Fantastic Four in a mystery role. As Jenna has beating on the table in their house. Oh man.
Yes.
Man. Or Herbie, or someone we don't know yet. What do you guys think?
I am really gunning for Mole Man because I think that like you could not get better casting for Mole Man other than David Krumholtz, who like has expressed that he would love to have been in this movie. But like if you're not going to get him, I think Paul Walter Hauser, who just won an Emmy and is like in so many projects at this point and is also just legitimately hilarious. I think having him be a Mole Man and just be in like a couple sequences of this movie would absolutely crush it.
I'm Team Mole Man because there was a rumor at some point that Herbie was going to be voiced by a woman, and
Yeah.
I've latched onto that. So I would prefer that because that's what they told me, and I got excited about it. But he's very talented, so whatever he's doing, I think it's going to be good. They've gotten some really good MCU newcomers in this movie that are just talented Emmy winning actors, so that's pretty exciting.
It's so funny that like he's really talented, and the first thing that pops into my mind always is him getting his freaking Emmy stolen during episode 8. Like I hope he gets that back, and then he can go do whatever he needs to do. There's I you know what I really do enjoy, even though a lot of this movie has been theorized about and whatever, we still don't know exactly what the heck is going on. I'm just gonna hold on to that for as long as possible. That glorious period where the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a car.
Now I'm like picturing him as the voice of the Fantastic Car because why not?
I
I will also say with the Mole Man of it all, of like, I'm going to use the cultural touchstone that like a lot of people have for the Fantastic Four at this point, which is The Incredibles. And it's like The Incredibles basically ends with their take on Mole Man and doesn't necessarily like show the fight scene, but it does kind of like people have that vision in their minds. And so I think if you did show the actual Fantastic Four fighting the actual Mole Man, like people would immediately get what they're going for. And it would show something that like the other movies have not shown us yet.
Yeah, I mean, just anything to distance itself from the stuff when we were younger. Like anything would be appreciated. Any new takes. And also, we're always banging the drum for like weirdo little villains to be in these things, like funny that they would never make the whole thing. Could you imagine if Kevin Feige stepped out there and that's what we're doing as the villain for the Fantastic Four movie that you've all waited all this time for? We would be excited, but the larger internet would be like, "Boo, boo!" And I'm like, "You don't know taste. I've seen what makes you cheer."
Let's see that Mole Man hat, Feige.
Oh my gosh. I also like selfishly want him to be Mole Man because there is an issue of She-Hulk where like he tries to marry She-Hulk for like something that will help his like mole kingdom,
gosh.
and it is great. And like I would love a world where he and Tatiana could be in the same scene together. Like that would just be utterly delightful. But yeah, so we're gonna take a quick 1-minute break, and when we come back, we have some new what if news, and we have some Cap 4 and Deadpool and Wolverine quotes. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Phase Zero. So we have some new what if content, which is kind of tiding us over. What's up, Aaron?
Please put Jack Lichtenstein's text from YouTube on the screen, please.
So he says he just tried to skip because he never watches it live. Pulling a
Oh.
Jim Viscardi, I see.
Jim Viscardi.
We miss you, Jim. So we have some new What If content while we're waiting for season 3. This dropped like within the hour before we started recording this, and I had to bring this up because I know there's one thing that someone on this panel will be very excited for. So this is What If, an immersive story. It is an Apple Vision Pro game that they are putting out that is like some sort of interactive episode. And Wanda Maximoff is on there in a brand new costume.
Ooh.
So we had to get Jamie's reaction.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't awake an hour ago, so I missed this.
So we have it up on the screen right now. If you're listening in audio form, it's all over Twitter. You can easily find it. They have the Watcher, the Collector. Wanda is in like a red and white kind of costume that looks like nothing we've seen in the MCU thus far. We have Thanos, Wong. It looks like Hela with the hammer. A character who looks a lot like Hush, which is kind of wild because I'm trying to figure out who that is in the Marvel context, but it looks almost identical to like Hush from DC. And then I'm sad BD's not here because there is a female Nova Corps member who probably is Carol, but it would be kind of cool if it's just another random character. But either way, there's always Nova crumbs dropping whenever BD's not on the show.
In the bylaws, you can't
Yeah.
have him here. They're never here in the same place because they're the same person. You're right. This really does look just like the Hush designs. That's
It's
insane.
so
What?
weird.
That's so weird. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Also, it's so funny that like Carol still has the mohawk through her helmet, and this is like a riff on like the old like classic Scarlet Witch look. Big headpiece. Big fan. The Wanda fashion journey is a trip if you're interested on the internet. It's a wild time. Goblin Queen adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This doesn't have a release date yet, but this just got announced and teased. So I'm sure we'll probably hear more. I know none of us have a Apple Vision Pro headset, but I'm sure people who do will let us know what to glean from this. But yeah, so going towards things that will be released a little bit sooner.
Hopefully. So we got some Cap 4 stuff from Julius Ona because, you know, the internet demands content, McDonald's demands toys. Julius Ona talked to Empire Magazine about the film, about Sam, about Samuel Stearns. So he said, Sam finds himself almost standing between Samuel Stearns and what he thinks the government owes him and how he wants to go about getting that. In the lead of the piece, part of the challenge for Sam as Captain America working within the government is the way he's going to make decisions. The point of view he's going to have at times will put him at odds with the president, which is Harrison Ford, who does not know what a Red Hulk is. As said to our Jamie Jirak.
That man lied to me according to McDonald's. That's all I'm going to say.
I was going to say, we didn't get your reaction on last week's show to the McDonald's toys.
I saw that and I was just like, oh man, it's a shame that I won't be buying those because I really want it. You know what? It's okay, Harrison Ford. I forgive you. That's all I'll say about that.
McDonald's should send you the Red Hulk toy just to make up for it. Also, like, you get the honor of saying that Harrison Ford lied to your face, and I feel like that is like a really great honor to have.
Yes, I agree.
But yeah, these Cap 4 quotes are exciting. Like this has me hyped for the movie. I know I did not get to see the footage that was at CinemaCon, but it sounds like the people who did thought very highly of it. So
also in the Empire piece, he's like, this is a guy who can bleed, you know. He's just a guy with a shit. And I'm just like, what are y'all gonna do with Anthony Mackie? This is not cool. Don't do that. Why would you say that?
That is kind of a cool angle, though, that like I hadn't even really thought of. So it will be interesting to see a Captain America movie with like that level of stakes to it.
Hopefully.
I'm just really excited for like them to butt heads. I think that it's going to be an interesting dynamic.
Oh boy.
But yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see what that looks like. But on the horizon is Deadpool and Wolverine, and we have a lot more quotes for Jamie to read, so take it away.
Oh my goodness, more Deadpool and Wolverine business. Let's see. Ryan Reynolds talked to Empire, and he's talking about how Deadpool 3 was originally a much smaller story. He said it was a Rashomon story about Wolverine and Deadpool and something they got into together, but told them 3 completely different perspectives. It was a way to make a large-scale movie in a very small way. And he said, I wrote up 18 treatments, some of them almost like a Sundance film, a budget of under 10 million, sort of using the IP in a way that they previously hadn't used. And I pitched bigger movies, and I pitched things in between. Before we move on to Sean's quote, I think that's really interesting that he 18 treatments. That's so many ideas. I'm interested to see. Like I want to know how much of those 18 treatments got squeezed into this one movie. Also, like I'm glad they didn't go to the Rashomon route because I feel like that's a little overplayed at this point. It's already a movie called Rashomon, and now it's been done many times since. So
I don't remember it that way.
I was just about to say, I would be making the Simpsons joke the entire time if that was the type of movie we were about to get. I'm really fascinated by this too. I like the idea that they were doing ones that were like under $10 million because like that seems wild in a Marvel Studios context and even just in like a superhero movie context. I'm almost picturing like a My Dinner with Andre situation where it's like just a single set for the entire movie, which like would have been cool in and of itself. I would love a world where we could get like all of these treatments like bound together into a book or something and we could just see all of the different versions because I'm sure there was some wild stuff in there.
They said like if I could read like all 18 of them and be like, what in the world? Like I can't imagine. He was just sitting there every day and he'd come into his house and there'd be another nicely bound treatment for Deadpool and Wolverine or Deadpool 3 at the time there. And I'm sure I think Jamie's right. Some of these oranges did get squoze together into what we ended up getting, which is good because I'm sure there's fun stuff too. There's gonna be what stuff that didn't even make the cut that we're gonna be like, wait, what? Like this was possible? So yeah. Deadpool.
I like the idea of Ryan Reynolds going into the pitch meeting with Feige, and he's like, "ID number 1, we're going to the Savage Land. ID number 2, right? ID number 3, just like spattered them off as quickly as possible." But Sean also did talk to Empire about some Entertainment Weekly about some cameos, and he said, "I'll say we didn't start off with a wish list. From the day we started devising this Deadpool and Wolverine story, we let the story dictate the characters, not the other way around. Aaron and his return as Pyra was an outgrowth of that, and that applies to pretty much all the characters you'll see in the movie." I like to hear that. As much as I want to see every single X-Man that's ever lived shown up in this movie, we don't want just a fan service, let's squeeze him in thing. So I respect this answer because certainly Pyro isn't somebody that I like would have thought of first. And then he came in the trailer and I was like, oh yeah, that's my boy from X2. So
this is exactly why I wanted you to read that quote because I knew you would be very hyped about Pyro. Yeah, it is really encouraging to hear that, especially given the deluge of speculation about the cameos that may or may not be in this movie. And it's like, some of you just want like a carousel of random cameos that you can just point at. Like you don't want anything that actually serves the story. So I'm at least glad that the people making this movie seem to be putting the story first and like really, really prioritizing that. Because I'm sure there are a lot of roles in this movie where you could have like swapped out one random mutant from X2 or Last Stand with another, but I'm sure there are still like very specific roles and they're like tailoring the cameos to that.
Of course, see what we're talking about, but it does sound encouraging, does it not? But also, the internet speculation around all the stuff is like, good luck finding a reason why in the world of the movie why Taylor Swift comes out there and does anything as Dazzler. Good luck. You know what I mean? Or like any of the other weird cameos that have been rumored on the internet. Can't wait to see why we get explicative deleted as like another version of Wolverine or Deadpool. Cannot wait because that never actually even happened. You know what I mean? But it is exciting. There is a large percentage of the fan base though that would be cool with the can line of all the X-Men actors. Like they would be absolutely down. And that's not to say it wouldn't be entertaining because what if it was just a can line of X-Men actors and it actually was a musical and you let Hugh sing? I'd be like, oh wow.
Stop great movie. Getting into my dreams, Aaron.
I will say to your point of like trying to justify some of the weirder cameos, I do think like existing in the void gives them a lot of leeway to let some of that stuff happen. And especially like Taylor as Dazzler in particular, when that was something that was like rumored for X-Men Apocalypse, they could always just use the excuse of like, oh, well, she's just the version from Apocalypse that you never got to see or something like that. Like there's a way to make it work. I do think like to your point, they're going to probably balance the can line with stuff that actually services the plot.
Yep, it's a nice balance.
Yeah. And so on that topic, we have our spicy nugget of the week.
Oh man, Richard, go ahead and drop my basket, sir. Let's get into it. It's spicy nugget of the week time. My goodness, friends,
makes me laugh every time.
countrymen, Romans. I bring to you news about Daphne King because Omelet interviewed her about X-23 returning to Deadpool Wolverine, and she had the same sort of like, I'll say, Marsden or like any of them esque like freeze. What should I say? How should I approach this? And then gave you an answer, right? So speaking to Omelet, she said, I mean, I can't wait. The trailer looked incredible. This is all really crazy, and I'm really looking forward to it. Which I'm just like, that's really interesting. That ellipses, like Drewski.gif, like, say more about that. What do you mean? Because I would love to know what that's about. I would love to know what that's about. I am now suspicious of every celebrity that posts this trailer because of our friend Michael B. Jordan. I am very, very suspicious. Walter Scobell, I see you. I know about that. Liam has you, like, I could just ask Liam to call you and he'll figure it out for me. We'll figure it out. How do we feel about X-23 being back? If so.
You just reminded me that Clark Gregg shared the Secret Invasion trailer. And
Oh, yeah. The greatest Jamie Puff fake in the world. Oh, no.
Oh,
no.
oh no.
I feel like Daphne Keane probably has a little cameo. I wouldn't be surprised, but if she doesn't either, girl's about to be in Star Wars, so she's busy. It's hard. I feel like every single actor who's ever been in one of these movies, no matter how big or small or recent or far away, are getting these questions, and at this point they have to have been prepped of just like, keep it teasy, let the people think, because even if you're not in it, we want them to be curious. So.
The only exception seems to be Famke Janssen, who like gaslit herself of like, am I in Deadpool 3? And do I not know that? Like, I love that was her answer eventually. But yeah, I'm like 50-50. I think she could be in this movie. I do think, like, to Jamie's point, she is busy. She does have Star Wars, but also like wouldn't have put it past them to have maybe like filmed something on the Acolyte set or something, or just had her like dart over from one set to another and just film her little cameo and have her be in the movie. Because like now, having very recently rewatched Logan, it would be really cool to see the two of them united again. But also, if we don't get it, Logan is so great as it is.
I mean, it's really funny to hear you say that, like a third of Multiverse of Madness is just people in warehouses yelling at nothing.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. Anything is on the table. But also, if Miss Jansen, if she Gwyneth Paltrow herself, and we come in here during the reaction episode, if you don't think I'm gonna joke about that, whoo! She just forgot. She's just there. They let her there. She thought it was a grocery store. She's like, "Oh, hey Ryan, how you doing?" And then just left. Oh, cinema.
What a world.
Gwyneth Paltrow. I like that.
Yeah, I love that we've turned it into a verb.
Man, listen, that woman is known for that and those candles, and I will leave it at that.
Yep. All right.
Not her Oscar. Not the Oscar. It's the candles.
To your point, I did just forget she had an Oscar until you brought it up. So
There is the Oscar, but listen, who's talking about that on the social medias? Who's talking about that in the comic book Slack, where all the good news happens?
Yeah.
Oh God.
All right.
You think this is unhinged? Wait till we come back.
Seriously. We're going to take another quick 1-minute break. When we come back, we are going to have full spoilers for the latest X-Men 97 episode. So if you have not watched it yet, now is the time to dip out and come back once you have watched it. So stay tuned because we have a lot to talk about. Welcome back to Phase Zero. We are now in Phase 3 of today's show, which is our X-Men 97 discussion for the penultimate episode of Season 1, which is just wild to say at this point. Jamie, you're at the top of the board. What's your reaction?
Oh, another great one. The show don't miss. All of it was so great. We got all kind of, and there's just so many cool things. All these characters, some have been reunited, some are injured, or some dead. I don't know. I can't wait for the finale, but I'm not ready for it to be over.
Aaron.
I mean, I'm not quite as high on it as last week, but it is still really, really good. I think it's really, really fun that Beau DeMille basically got to write ascended version of his favorite comic story ever in this episode. On Twitter, if you go and you look, like the issue that this is based on is like his favorite thing. And there's nothing cooler than seeing a person whose favorite thing is something get to actually shape that thing for another generation of fans. And he's like passing the test with flying colors. There's so much that happens. Like I just did like the Jamie recap compilation of all of X-Men 97 season 1 would be like still be 35 to 40 minutes long, which is wild. It would be so much longer than some of the movies that we recapped on the road to Deadpool Wolverine. So still out here pitching a shutout, guys. It's great.
I agree with Aaron. I think I liked part 1 a little bit more, but like it is still an absolutely incredible episode. Like there was so much that I was just legitimately blown away by. Like we got done watching and like Chris and I turned to each other and we were just like, ow, because like that ending, we will talk about it, but like that was nuts. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how all of this culminates and how all of this wraps together, because like especially as a 3-part arc, they have just been delivering straight bangers with this storyline in so many ways. But yeah, I have a couple notes for Easter eggs. Feel free to call out any other Easter eggs or talking points. We get the joke about black leather, which was kind of a reference to the movie costumes that the X-Men had. That was already teased in like the mid-season trailer, but it was nice to see like the actual context of it. Because I also haven't been watching the teasers or TV spots. We got Hulk, as Jamie mentioned, as Morph kind of transformed into Hulk in the big battle scene. That was so cool to see. That was just like the perfect way to include that character.
They're really using Morph so well this season, and it's nice to see because Morph always got the short end of the stick in the original series. Poor Morph was always struggling, and now they get to be funny and they get to turn into so many cool different characters and always someone you're not expecting, and I love to see that.
JP Carliac, you lied to my face. Fam, like what? Like I asked, like, did you get to voice any iconic characters from any of this stuff? And they were like, I did efforts. That's a pretty big effort. Morph Smash is a pretty giant different thing than like a grunt or the sound of someone throwing a punch. But it was fun to see, and you're right, it is great. Also, unfortunately, Jamie, I believe Young Morph is our best chance at one Wanda Maximoff popping off for the finale. It feels like
it's all right. Here. As I've said before, her one episode in the original series, she didn't do anything, so it's fine. I have her in other ways.
But Bo said, be patient when someone asked on Twitter about Scarlet Witch.
Oh,
and every time he's been like, be patient, something actually does happen. Like Spider-Man, something actually happened. Yep. Like Captain America, something actually happened. So that's all to say. In before, it's the highest rated episode of any Marvel television show for Jamie Dirac when Wanda actually does save the day. When she tosses Asteroid M into the sun.
She can save the day or she can destroy the day, and it'll be my favorite. Don't care. Either way.
If it is with no more mutants, that would be wild. I'd be like, I'm done. Greatest show. And I don't say that.
See, the chat's making the same point that I am, which is like, watch her just be in season 2. Like, the patience could also mean just wait for season 2.
That's true.
So,
she's the main character. She's in the title sequence.
That would be amazing if we just get her
Jamie,
like in an entire episode, like of season 2. I would be over the moon, and I know Jamie would be too.
Let's do it.
So let's talk about first, before we get into the ending, the chat is also bringing up Storm. And I know, Aaron, you have a lot of thoughts about Storm and how she was going to like kind of re-enter the group. What did you think about how it ultimately happened?
I didn't expect her to come in there and save Jubilee and Roberto. That was fun. I thought that was really cool. And also Forge and all of his 90s glory, just looking like he buys jet skis from Mobius. In the most ridiculous ways. You've seen that Florida man 400 times, right, Jamie? Like straight up. This exact make and model of Florida man, like ridiculous. Yes, yeah. Yes. I love the new look. I love that they edited the intro to have her in the new look.
Yeah.
And it's a shot for shot recreation. Delightful stuff. Her and Jean. Someone said this on Twitter, and I think I agree. It is the best relationship in this whole show. It's the most wholesome, like, nurturing relationship at the core of this show is their sisterhood, which is very, very, very wonderful, delightful. So mind your weather, your mind.
I have chills. Oh my gosh. I also
Right.
like it's a testament that the relationship is so good when like that was Madeline for a good chunk of it. And yet it still
Yeah.
fits both of the characters so well. Because I was kind of wondering when Storm came back of like, would they acknowledge like, hey, you had that heart to heart with like clone Jean and not actual Jean, but like they just still seem to be as close as ever, which is just really sweet. I also like Jean stuff with Mr. Sinister. I almost do want him to say like when they were swapped, but I like that we are just teasing it and we are not ultimately saying it. And I just thought like everything they did with her and with Cable in this episode, just I was so happy.
I laughed so hard when she got the Marvel Girl costumes. I'm like, Jenna's somewhere silently pumping her fist.
They teased it in like a clip that they put out the day before,
Yeah.
so I knew it was coming. I wish I hadn't known because I would have just been so happy. But like even just getting it and having it be in the entire episode and like her fight with Cable, that was unbelievable. So as a Jean fan, I was very happy with this episode. Even though she is in danger, I'm sure she will be fine. But yeah,
They're all gonna die. That's it. That's how it ends. They're Infinity Warring X-Men 97, and every character is gonna be dead.
And somehow it's Wanda's doing because we're just gonna do.
Oh no! Bucky's paw! God!
It sounded like you said Bucky's paw.
Sebastian Stan.
That's my new.
Come on the show.
Yeah, now I'm gonna call a monkey spot that now too. So we have to talk about the ending. Which to Aaron's point about being lied to by a member of this cast, when I interviewed Matthew Watterson and I asked like what character crossovers would you most like to see, he specifically brought up Wolverine and talking about like how their dynamic is so much fun because like Magneto looks at Wolverine and is kind of like, I could kill you in an instant. Like I control the thing that your body is made out of. And like hearing him say that and writing it up for the site yesterday, and then he literally does it in today's episode, I was like, wow, okay. This was way sooner than I had expected it to be. I will say for the comic's sake, this is a perfect recreation of X-Men 25, like down to the pose that Logan is in. It is like almost exactly the same panel. And it is just wild to see like how perfectly they recreated it.
One thing you can't do in live action is easily in these animated shows is do the anime, like the panel thing. And anime fans, we Leonardo DiCaprio point every time it happens, and it is spot on. I hadn't seen it in years before this morning and writing up for the site, and man, oh man, like straight up the same image, basically. You know, there's a little bit of like cleanup because 90s comics art, you know. I think Wolverine has a slightly less muscle.
Yeah.
In this image than maybe back then, but it's perfect. And also you just can't believe they did it. There's so many things that happened this series over the course of this season. When we look back, I thought certain things would be off limits. Like you're not gonna kill Gambit. We're not doing the Wolverine gets the adamantium stripped off his bones thing. The Wolverine's too important. Like we're not having the Genosha massacre. We're not taking out any fan favorites from X-Men the Animated Series. We're not doing any of that stuff. And it totally has gone there, which makes me scared for the finale a little bit.
No one is safe.
I'm joking around about no one's safe. I'm worried about Rogue, man.
Oh, me too. Oh my gosh, we'll talk about her. But before we do, I will say with Wolverine, I wrote this article on the site a couple weeks ago. I love the fact that Logan has had like such a supporting role in this show, and I honestly think it has made the show like markedly better than it could be if he was a focus. Because it's like we have gotten so many Wolverine animated stories. We had an entire show that was just him leading the X-Men. We have all of the movies. We have him upcoming in a new movie, and it's nice to just have him like be a supporting player and let the other characters kind of like drive the plot of each episode. And then like when we do use him, it's for the coolest possible action scenes or like the really brutal stuff like this. So I'm glad that track record is still continuing. But yeah, we have to talk about Rogue. I'm sure Jamie has a lot of thoughts on Rogue.
Girl is spiraling. She's struggling. I mean, you know, I don't blame her. Yeah, things are getting spicy, and I'm along for the ride. But yeah, I'm into it.
And then Aaron, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Jamie supports women's wrongs list goes every week on this show. Dear God.
Someone gave me a t-shirt recently that said I support women's wrongs.
Oh, I love it.
It's just a fact.
Richard,
I feel
we
like
have
you
to
need
take it
to
off
wear
the
it for
list.
like next week's episode because I feel like it probably will fit in some form or fashion. I love it. And then people are already speculating, given kind of the plot of this episode and where Magneto is, that like Onslaught might be on the horizon, which for those of you who don't know in the comics is kind of a sentient amalgam of Magneto and Charles's consciousness and causes a lot of havoc in the 90s and is kind of one of the next major storylines after the point that we're already at in the comics on this show. So I would be very curious to see if and how they do it, but like I would not put that past them at all.
There's too much smoke for the fire already. Like there are so many things. Like I hope everybody realizes. I'm wondering how people react. There's no way this ends tidily at
No.
the end of the next episode. It could be an hour long and it wouldn't end tidily, and that would be great. It would still be fun. But yeah, like I fear they're gonna be getting led by Scott or something by the end of this, and we're gonna end up in the same weird loop, which is also, I think that this episode did draw on a lot of like that first entry, maybe the first 2 episodes, really hard. They were like leaning into, hey, remember this exact conversation happened in this room, or blah blah blah. Just really well thought, really well written and cohesive scenes all together. But yeah, say goodbye to Ross Marquand and Dad Nito. I don't think they're gonna have too many speaking lines the first couple episodes of next season.
They'll still be back. They'll still find ways. But yeah, so kind of on that topic, do we have any major predictions for the finale? I think Aaron kind of hit the nail on the head, but like beyond that,
I'm so bad at predicting things.
He really is.
Yeah, I'm just excited for it all to come together, and then I'm excited to watch it again. And once we know how it's all gonna culminate, but I don't have any like exciting predictions. I'm sorry.
totally fair. And yeah, for people in the chat who are wondering, they are renewed for season 2. Like they already had gotten picked up almost before season 1 premiered. So don't worry, we will have more.
Yeah, we're not getting the weird cliffhanger ending we would have gotten in the 90s for this thing. I will say, I think it is funny as well that I think for the finale, yo, man, Bishop ain't been here the whole time. My man's been MIA since what, episode 3 or 4? That has to come home to roost. I would also say that you do not bring Emma Frost into a X-Men thing and not have her and Scott leading them at some point with different ideologies and also the randiest X-Men leaders possible on a show where it's really ridiculous already. So yeah, that's probably happening too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, Jamie, if you thought Rogue, Gambit, Magneto was spicy, like get ready for the two of them because it is.
I have read some comics of the two of them, and I'm ready. I'm definitely ready. Sorry,
that is
Jean.
also my
Bye.
prediction. I know. I love Jean dearly. Like she is one of my favorite characters ever. But like if this is the arc that we are setting up, I'm glad we're getting to this point, and I am very excited for the mess that is on the horizon after this. But yeah, does anyone else have any other notes or observations about the episode?
I'm trying to think if there's anybody else's arc that hasn't been fully addressed or whatever yet, and I don't know. Do you think we get the Shi'ar coming back into the picture? Because
maybe
he kind of did just dip off on that queen and embarrass her in front of all her friends and family. That seems kind of bad.
I could see that coming back together in season 2, like
Season 2,
them
yeah.
coming, and yeah, I would be surprised if they showed up in the finale, but you never know.
Yeah.
Oh,
right, well,
you think you get Feral Wolverine?
Maybe. That could be really cool.
The ugliest, most 90s-tastic version of the character possible. I weep for the fans that really wanted that brown suit. Yeah. They really lived like kings for exactly 10 minutes, and then it was all over.
I hadn't even thought about that. That's so true.
Jamie, are you gonna get Beast in his weird self-hating or like weird somewhat hating him love interest in the ending of this at some point?
I just want my boy to be happy. You know? I just want my boy to be smiling and doing his thing.
All right, well, let's go around and rank the episode out of 10. Jamie, you were on the big board, so why don't you go first?
I wish that I had written down all of my scores for each episode because I just don't remember, and all these point whatevers are arbitrary, as you know, and so I don't know, 9.3?
Aaron, what about you?
Whatever.
I give it a 9. It's still really solid. It's just not the last episode, and I'm sure it's not gonna kick you in the gut like next week is. Like, I'm gonna come in here with a cast. It's gonna do so much emotional damage. I'm gonna need actual like medical support. But yeah, I think it's like a 9.
You're just gonna be the guy from SpongeBob of like every morning I break
Yeah,
my legs and every night I break my arms. Just the full body cast. That's what the finale's gonna do.
This is me in an iron lung, live from an iron lung.
If Jamie was watching next to you, that would definitely be the case because you would be.
Jamie, I've got a bit for Comic-Con. We're gonna have to sneak into a hospital. Let's go. We got it.
I love it. I'm gonna also give it a 9.3. I think that sounds right. I think that I definitely liked part 1 of this arc a lot better, but I do think like there's so much that is just like I cannot believe I'm seeing this right now kind of thing. But it does feel kind of like the middle interlude to something that is going to get even crazier from there. So again, a 9.3 is still very, very high praise. So divided by 3, that means our phase 0 average score for this episode is a 9.2. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm sure BD's gonna have thoughts when he hears about this
yell at
after
all
the
of
fact.
us. Yeah.
He's still mad that we ranked the first Deadpool at the point that we did.
That was a high score. I don't
I know.
understand his problem. This is again where we come in with the little points. There are
Yeah.
too many numbers. So when you're in the 8s, the 8 is really a good place to be, but it's not 8.8. So it's so up.
Richard, put it on a t-shirt. There are too many numbers.
There are too
There are
many.
too many numbers.
I cannot wait for our Deadpool 2 episode, which should hopefully be on the horizon. We have to figure out the specifics now, but we should hopefully be having that next Monday. But yeah, so again, thank you everybody for listening to today's episode and to the Spotlight episodes that we recently put out. Aaron, do you have anything to leave the listeners with today?
I sure do. Do you like apes? I think you like apes if you watch this show. Our comicbook.com's review of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, of the sequel of the movie, the franchise, is up on the site. You can go see that. It's a hoot and holler and good time at the movies, which you should be going to see. Also, go see The Fall Guy if you're so inclined. Like, charming, delightful little movie that, you know, people are like, this thing didn't make $30 million. It's garbage. And I'm like, what? No. Like, y'all love Ryan Gosling. What is happening? Y'all love Emily Blunt. You still get occasional Phase Zero comments where they're like, man, I can't believe she's not Invisible Woman. Can't believe she's not Sue. What the heck? We really could have had it all. So, yes, go do those things.
Jamie?
Well, I'm going to piggyback off that, which is you should see The Fall Guy because it's great. I loved it. But if you are seeing The Fall Guy, do not pay attention to the intro in which David Leitch and Ryan Gosling give you workarounds on how to have your phone out in the theater. Dim it. Hide it in your jacket. What are you doing, David and Ryan? What kind of message are you sending to moviegoers? Are you insane? Oh, I'm so mad about it. But the movie itself is really great and I loved it. Don't have your phone out during the movies. Follow me on Letterboxd at Jamie Jurek. It's all good. I'm fine. I'm fine about it. I'm fine.
Oh, man.
Bravo. I saw your tweet about it, and I'm glad to know that you are still just as angry about it. Like,
Really
I would expect nothing less. Oh my gosh. That is just wild to have that outlook. Like, it should just be no talking, no texting. It should not be, here's how you can cheat the system. That's nuts to me. But yeah, it's at Hey It's Jenalyn on social media. As always, go read some comics. There are some really great ones out this week, including a new issue of Birds of Prey that I absolutely adored. So go check out any comics that you want to read. And thank you to everyone who tweeted at me your free comic book day hauls. I should have plugged it on the show the previous week, but if you went to Free Comic Book Day, I love that, and I'm very proud of you. Don't forget to follow the show at Phase Zero CB. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see our spotlight interviews and whatever else we have on the pipeline. And play the show for your mom, play the show for your dog, and we shall see you very soon.